Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Happy holidays to all of you. We are super glad that you are here. My name is Tammi Juengst, and I am joined by my co-coach of Never Ending Referral, Steve Schlueter. And you are all here to talk about how you are going to unleash your superpower in 2023. And before we get things started, we'd love to just pose a question to all of you and ask you, what is your number one goal as it relates to your database in 2023? And if you will, just throw that in the chat, right? Because honestly, oh my gosh, Steve, when I think about, walking into 2023 and the market has changed, we are absolutely in a shift across the country and in all markets at this point. The database is really where it's at, right? Is succeeding through those relationships. And so hats off to all of you for being here because, your database is how you succeed. All right, systematize it, being more intentional, staying on top of it, foundation, converting the not met to met. Love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, grow it by 410. By the way, I love that you know that number, right? To grow to 250, that's a six-figure database, Tammi.
Colleen's going for 500 and Heather's going to double the database and, get that thing going. Awesome. Amy, be more engaged and double it. Double your business, double your database. It's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
I remember, Tammi, some time ago, we had an interview with Tony DeCello, and Tony would talk about how every year he would do 90 to 100 transactions out of a 900 person database. And then he would go gut out the other 80 or 90 transactions with cold calls, expired, circle prospecting, whatever it took. And he goes, and on the call one day, he said, it never occurred to me just to double my database. And, I was being so effective with the 900 I had, and then I would go gut it out for another 70 or 80 sales, and how simple it would have been to just slow down to speed up and be intentional. And that's really what I hear and what you guys are saying is you got to slow down in this little area to speed up. And so Tammi, I think we got our marching orders to kind of help these guys today. We ready to get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'm going to pull up our slides and let me do this real quick. And there we are with our superpower capes there, Tammi. So
tactical Tammi and stuff.
Ready to go. And so today, Tammi, what are we going to get into here?
Well, you know what, let's begin by, when we talk about 3 steps to really unleashing that superpower, the number one reason that people decide to choose someone as their agent, it all begins with trust, right? And there are clearly defined ways in how we establish that trust. And if we can establish trust, then everything else happens pretty magically. So we're going to jump in, and Steve, let's talk about, what are the steps to really establishing trust with someone?
You got it. Well, and Tammi, let's dig in. And by the way, this recording will be posted. We'll be sending out the link and all that to you, so you'll have access to all this, post the event. But let's dig in to get a little bit. So Tammi, this thing called the trust triangle, we talked about, the 3 steps that are going to really unleash your mega agent superpower. And this trust triangle, it comes from the Harvard Business Review. And it was a conversation about how leaders establish trust with the people that they lead. And as I heard Gary Keller and Jay Papasan having a conversation around this one afternoon, it occurred to me, this is exactly how you and I established a trust relationship with our database. This is how, Tammi, you say it all the time. It's this opportunity to go from being Steve, the realtor, to who?
Oh my gosh. Well, when somebody actually says, hey, that's Steve, my realtor, that's where we know, like we've done it right. And it's not like, oh, that's Steve, he's a realtor. It's when they take ownership of us.
Yeah. And so this is really that secret sauce. This is the formula that when you can bring this to your database, and there are steps to doing this, And we're going to introduce a few of them to you today. We're going to give you some tools, a conversation to help you begin this journey if you haven't already, and then to strengthen it as you go. But let's go through the trust triangle. And how does this apply to our database? So Tammi, we talk about there's 3 elements to establishing this position of trust. It's logic, empathy, and authenticity. And the logic part is answering the question, or having them be able to say that they know you can do it. They know that your reasoning and your judgment are sound. And then on the empathy side, it's where they absolutely know that you care about them and their success. They're just not a number for you. And they experience the real you through this whole thing. You're never having to be fakey or salesy. A conversation is never feels like a sales call. It might have a sales element, and yet it always feels like it's coming from contribution. It's deepening the relationship. It's focused on value, and it's done in a way that's authentically you. And Tammi, when I think about this thing called authenticity, and maybe if some of you guys are like me, how many of you would rather call a for sale by owner or knock on doors, cold doors, than call your database or sphere of influence or past clients? And, I suffered from that early on, Tammi, because somebody had told me I had to be everybody's best friend. That was how you built a referral database or referral relationship. I'm a really high assertive behavior style. And the thought of being everybody's best friends was just anxiety provoking to me. I didn't want to do that. Because number one, Tammi, it wouldn't feel authentic.
Yeah.
And when you're a human being that cares, being inauthentic it doesn't work for you. It works against your values, and you might be able to do it for a while, but there's going to come a time where I just want to go talk to somebody who wants to talk about real estate today. I don't want to be everybody's best friend. And of course that shifted when I learned that I could become their trusted advisor. I said, I can hold that space. So when we say authenticity, Tammi, the first part is being authentically true to who you are, so you don't have to show up faking it. And because I think this is what gets in the way of 90% of the folks is we cover this whole thing in lesson 2 of never ending referrals. It's what gets in the way of most people really working their database. Fred's going, I can relate. Joyce, true. Jocelyn, same thing, right? And so, these are some of the things. And by the way, no behavioral style is immune. Tammi, what's the high socials hang up when it comes to the database?
That somebody won't like you.
Yeah.
No,
And so,
yeah,
they might reject me. They won't like me. And so we've got all these stories about what's going to happen, is because we haven't built these soft skills around how we connect or how we add value or what coming contribution looks like. And so when we think about that, going back to that slide, it's going, when you figure out what does my delivery of authenticity look like? How do I show up being the real me? And I know what the real me is. That's a game changer. What's my strategy for logic so that they know my reasoning and judgment are sound? Tammi, this is more important than anything else today, because who are they going to trust with what is going on in the economy as it applies to their housing market and decisions around buying or selling or remodeling or building? Are they going to trust the media that is on one hand this, and then it's hot and cold, and who's going to interpret the market? And it's got to be you, and you've got to go build that position of logic. They know that your reasoning and judgment are sound. And then in the next point, of course, empathy, that they care about you, or you care about them and their success, rather. And so let's talk about this, Tammi. Susan Scott, A Fierce Conversation, says the conversation is the relationship. And you and I have done studies in rooms where, agents aren't having these most vital quarterly conversations with their database. And when Susan Scott says the conversation is the relationship, what we're saying is this is something we've got to reconcile, that if we're really going to build a database that can give us a 10% or better return, meaning if I've got 250 in a database, I'm going to get 25 or more transactions a year.
That's right.
And if I double it to 500, I'm going to get 50 transactions a year. I'm going to have to reconcile that the conversation is the relationship. Now, what does that mean?
Well, what it makes me think of first, Steve, is this. Conversations never hurt a relationship. Lack of conversations do. And so, when we think about getting those kind of results from your database, having the conversation with the people that know you, those connected contacts in that database is just no longer an option. So what we really have to figure out is, how do we have those value-added conversations that would prompt someone to pick up the phone, be happy to hear from you, and make you not necessarily feel like you're asking for something from people, because we don't like to take from people, right? So we've got to have conversations that make sense, they're genuine, and they bring value to the people that we're talking to. And so that's really what this is all about, is how do we have conversations that bring value to the people in the database so that we get that 10% or better return.
Yeah. We'd like to hide, Tammy, I know, just behind marketing and let me send them emails and email them to death. And, the MailChimp and Constant Contact and all these companies have done studies, and they say that business email has a 13 to 15% open rate. And are you really creating connection? And if the conversations aren't occurring. Now, here's the thing, Tammy, we know from our own experience that when the conversations are occurring, what happens to the open rate on your emails?
Well, it's the linchpin that makes all the other stuff that we do work, right? It's what makes them pay attention to things they receive in the mail from us. It's what increases the open rate. I mean, because all of us wake up in the morning, and I can't be the only one here, right? That does the whole swipe, delete, swipe, delete, swipe, delete. And yet, if I'm in a relationship with someone, I'm more likely going to open up that email.
Right. Yeah. And we see that time and time again. And, I always tell the story of Barbara. And, I'm driving down the road and I get a call and it says Barbara DeLamo. And I'm going, who's Barbara DeLamo? And it comes up on my dash and I'm going, I must know her because the name is showing up on my dashboard. And I take the call. And they're going, hey, and by the way, I probably did what you guys do. I go, hey, what's going on, Barbara? I'm like, I don't know who she is, right? And we had a nice conversation. You'll learn more about that later. If you take our program, when I talk about Barbara, it's a long story. I don't want to share it right now, but here's the end of the deal. I didn't know who Barbara was. And finally in the conversation, she revealed she had taken bowl with me back in 2009, the first bowl we had done in San Antonio. And yet something about that I'm going, it said on the dashboard, maybe Barbara DeLamo. And I realized that as I hung up, and I'm going, I must have some communication with Barbara. And I pulled up my email, Tammy, and I had been getting an email every 3 weeks from Barbara for 7 years.
Oh my gosh.
Every 3 weeks for 7 years.
And you hadn't opened them.
And I get a phone call. She shows up in my caller ID, and my response is, who the heck is Barbara? And I want that to set with you for just a minute, folks, because how many situations would that be the case for us? If we reach out, if you make that reach out, and they're going to go, who the heck is that? Because we're not in flow. We haven't created that rhythm that a conversation will create. So one of the things, and you may have been introduced to this in Bold, it comes from our Never Ending Referrals coaching program, is we're going to challenge you this year to really take on the quarterly conversation. And this is you called it the linchpin, Tammy, the quarterly conversation. And we're going to give you a gambit or a tool for making sure that you have those conversations. And let me go back to my screen share. And it's a little something called Do the Database 2, or short, we call it DTD2. And essentially what it entails is you kick off every week with a 2-letter group, and they're already predetermined which weeks you have them. It becomes your schedule for your business. And you think about this, Tammy, there's 26 letters of the alphabet. So you two a week, that's 13 weeks I get through my database. They're 13 weeks in a quarter. It's an elegant little simple system to make sure that I have the critical conversations that I've got to have. And, we got very strategic when we developed this, because what this was, Tammy, it was a strategy to gamify this idea of having the quarterly call. And we divided the alphabet by census data into groups that were of similar size, with the exception of the last 2 weeks of the cycle. Right. They're purposefully small because what do we want them to do in a 13-week cycle of making their phone calls, Tammy? What do we want them to do in weeks 12 and 13 that are small demographic groups?
Get your energy back. I mean, it really is designed to give you a break of some sort those last 2 weeks before you kick back off again with A&W. And it's literally small by design. And actually, can you put that slide back up? Someone's asking to see that slide again.
Yeah, which one was it?
The one that had all the banners.
This one here?
Well, I had the 12 of the 13. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 12 and 13 there, and I'm not sure which one's missing here, but anyway. And by the way, we'll send a follow-up email to you. I'll send you a link to download these banners. And again, it's called Do the Database 2, or for short, we call it DTD2, numeral 2, DTD2. And it's and Tammy, there's some tricks to this that if you'll just simply implement this and you'll trust the process, and yet trusting the process, there's a couple of things we have to do. And number one, there's one of your favorites of all the benefits of doing DTD2. Let's talk about bias and call bias. I know that's one of your favorite.
It is.
Benefits of doing this.
Well, it's because we've all done it, right? You look at a name in your database or a name on your phone, and we prejudge whether or not they're going to be happy to hear from us, if they're going to have a referral from us. I mean, if they'll even pick up the phone, and then we don't call. And when we shared this with Bold, you and I were out on the road doing Bold. We're both Bold coaches as well. And one of the cool things that we saw happen over and over and over again was during call time, people would come in and say, oh my gosh, I just called somebody that I never would have called because of call bias, and I got a listing appointment, or I got an appointment to help them go find their next home. And so we watched it over and over and over again. So let the people that are in your database or in your phone, let them be the judge, right, of whether or not they're going to be happy to hear from you, because you have transactions sitting in your phone right now. And I promise you that they're there. It's just a matter of reaching out. And, the other really cool thing, Steve, that I really love about this is if I was in a room with all of you, I would ask you all this question, right? How many of you think that your database is a train wreck, right? I mean, because so many people like, boop, boop, right? Pull it into the station, right? And I get it. And here's the thing, if they're not categorized, they're not in any particular order, it's a train wreck. As long as they have a last name, you can sort a database and you can pull people up by letter of last name. And so the most important thing that you could ever do for your database is have the conversation. And even if it's not like put together or, organized in a way that works, you can pull these people up and do this, and then create tags or create the groups, depending on what CRM you're using, and start labeling them. In fact, write this down, guys. Today, go out and create those 13 two-letter groups. If you're using Command, it's going to be creating tags. If you're using something else, it's either going to be groups or buckets, kind of depends on what system you're using. And get everyone that has, and this is by last name, not first name, it's by last name. Go out and create those 2-letter
I'll be here like 10 minutes. I'm gonna print things like this.
just get that muted.
Oh, Jesus, take the wheel.
I'm not sure who's got a lot of background noise going. It's not muted.
Yeah,
Megan, if you can sort that out, that'd be great. Yeah.
It's Emily, I see.
I just muted everybody. There we go. All right. So if you'll go out and create those 13 2-letter groups, and don't worry about getting into your entire database and putting that label or that tag on everybody to begin with. Start doing them as the first 13 weeks happen. So like this week would be a great week to get prepared for next week, where we kick off with A&W, and then always be working into the next week that we're going to do. And at the end of the 13 weeks, everyone will get tagged. As you add new people, don't forget to give them the tag. And all of a sudden, you've created this database that is going to help you do the most important work.
Hey, Megan, if you'll go ahead and put the DTD2 schedule for 2023 in the chat right now, we'll put that in there and you guys can access it. It's now in the chat under Megan Denny. You'll find that. And George's got all done on one sheet. George has got it set. I love what Frank said. DTD2 is, if done properly, is the only way to make sure you contact all the people in your data bank each quarter. And I believe that's absolutely true. It's one of those things where it's so easy to lose things in our technology. And if it's just automated is throwing us up on our screen. And Jocelyn, how is a tag for DTD2 created? If you're in command, it's just a custom tag and you create it for the 2-letter group. So the A&W group, that's by last name. If their last name starts with A, or their last name begins with A&W, you create a custom tag called A&W and apply it to all those people. And of course, we've got bulk tagging, tactics and all that in our program that help you, learn how to do that simply. But I want to go back to DTD2, Tammy, and yeah.
I was like, hang on just a second, Luke. And hey, Luke, good to see you. Luke is asking, can we explain the text letter in the schedule? And so here's what's really cool about DTD2, right? The 2-letter groups that's actually outreach. That's you calling those folks, having that voice-to-voice conversation. The text letter is 1 letter a week is the texting. So they're going to get a text from you twice a year. They're actually going to have a conversation or a voicemail from you where they actually hear your voice 4 times a year. And they're separated enough so that it's not overkill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and it could be simply, hey, just thinking about you, want you to know we're here if we can serve you in any way. It doesn't have to be complicated or just really simple. It's a touch. And Tammy, going back to DTD2, the other thing that there's so many benefits. I mean, what you mentioned, if it's a train wreck, well, it becomes your maintenance schedule. Just tackle 2 letters at a time. And if you're not able to, if you got a bunch of them missing data, label it maintenance, put a label on it, and then just every cycle clean up a few of them over time. But here's the one that Tammy, when I first created DTD2 back in 2013 and was using this with my one-on-one coaching clients, here's what this is what they dug. It gives you a beginning and end each week. How many of you would like to be on Thursday afternoon, you were able to do this and go, I did my most important work this week. Amen. Right. Versus when you get to the end of the week and go, what the hell did I do this week? Right. Which is so many times our experience. And so think of it this way, when you apply DTD2, so first week of January is A&W, as you can see in the schedule that you have. And so with that A&W, I'm going to call Andersons, Wilkinsons, anybody whose last name begins with A or W. And then let's say I've got 50 people, Tammy, in that 2-letter group. Well, I'm going to dial all 50 on a Monday. I'll probably talk to 15. That's 30%.
Right.
And I talked to 30%, 15 of the 50. And for the other 35, I might leave a voicemail. And the voicemail is going to say, "Hi, it's Steve over at Keller Williams. Happy New Year. Just checking in to see how you guys were doing. Had a quick business question for you. I tell you what, I know everybody's really busy right now. I'll reach out to you later in the week. Feel free to call me back if you like, but no problems. I know you're probably busy. I'll reach out later in the week." Now, by the way, there's a pro tip. Write this down. Tammy, what did I just do?
You made it okay for them not to call you back. And
Why would I do that?
because again, I just keep throwing myself on the sword with you all. There are times that someone calls and you forget to call them back. And the next time they show up on your phone, you're like, right? And then you don't answer. So making it okay for them not to call you back is what we do in that first message.
Yeah.
And then we do make, and I was going to say, like, hang on, I think Austin just asked, do we call again? And we do, right? So then Steve, we reach back out again, right?
Yeah. Might be Wednesday. And so I got my remaining 35 on Wednesday. I take another stab at the remaining 35. And let's say, Tammy, I talk to 15 of those 35 and I get a higher pickup rate because maybe they're expecting my call now from the voicemail. And so now I've talked to 60% of my A&W group. I've talked to 30 of the 50. And those that I didn't get, I'm not going to leave a voicemail. I don't need to. I'm just doing what I said I was going to do. I made another reach out to them. And then on Thursday, maybe in the afternoon, a different time slot, I'm going to take that remaining 20 people and do one last attempt. And let's say I connect with 10 of that remaining 20. So now I've talked to 80% of the people in my A&W group. Tammy, if I had stopped after one attempt, I would have only talked to 30%. And if the conversation is the relationship, how much more effective was I, Tammy, because I did a little something called the 3-attempt approach. And what my clients loved about this, and this is where D2 comes in, it gives me a beginning and end each week to my most important work. Those didn't answer in task. That would be one way, or, Heather, I just do a print sheet of everybody and I'm kind of a paper worker for my list for the week. And then I can check off, who hasn't called. I can create a task, find what works for you. For me, I lose things in my technology. And so I pull it out of my technology, update my technology, at the end of the call section with notes and whatever specifically I might need to do. Find what works for you. Don't make it complicated, make it simple. And the beauty is I just got 2 letters to focus on this week. And, of course, in Narrowing Referrals, Tammy, we get into other gambits around DTD2, like social media, how I can use custom list and other strategies to queue up the calls, to create, anticipation of a topic I might be engaging them around with some on-purpose messaging. So DTD2 is this foundational thing. If you'll work it into your business and your life, you'll discover how powerful it can be. And then, Tammy, you got to add on to that the soft skills of how do I create those authentic conversations? How do I make a meaningful dialogue that's coming from contribution? And all these are learned skills. If somebody like myself, who's a high assertive, was able to learn to do that, it's anybody can. It just takes taking the initiative to put time on this to really make it work. But let me go back to our screen. Any last thoughts on DTD2, Tammy?
Yes, I mean, a lot of folks are asking, like, we said, hey, I just had a business question for you. So what would be a great example of a business question?
Well, it's funny you should ask. It's like they wrote the slides.
I know. We're gonna give you one that you can talk about. And this time of year, Steve, my favorite question literally at the beginning of the year can be, hey, we're just looking to see who we need to keep in touch with and who might have something going on as it pertains to real estate this year. Have you guys thought about any sort of real estate plans this year, whether it's buying or investing?
Yeah.
I mean, and now I know to put those folks, they're a nurture, right? They're in my pipeline. Yeah. And then we're going to give you an amazing conversation that you can have. So there you go.
Well, it's just right now, I mean, one of the things that I'm doing with my agents is, one of the conversations is there's some really unique opportunities in our market right now. Do you guys have any real estate plans in the next 24 months? Because this window of opportunity is such that if so, we might want to schedule a no obligation strategy question. And, in my markets, the opportunity is we have choice for the first time in a few years, where there's actually people aren't settling necessarily for the home that they have to buy, but we also have still short supply overall. And as soon as the economy heats up again, we're going to be right back in a bidding war in our market. So the window of opportunity for somebody is, do you want to have choice? And at the same time, people are negotiating, so you can get 4.99% through some buy downs of the interest rate. There's all these, and we call these MOFRs, right, Tammy? So we've got to have a message about the market, MOFRs that invites them to have a conversation, and we have a whole lesson on that in our Never Ending Referrals program. And yet, that's all part of how do we move people today. But let's go into this conversation, Tammy, that we're going to share with them, in this kind of business question or project that we're working on. And by the way, there's a get people doing DTD2 with you. This is a great market center in Atlanta, and they were kicking off their DTD2 cycle with A&W week at the beginning of the quarter. You notice they're holding root beer. Got A&W root beer. They had a root beer float party. They were bringing this into the culture of their market center. So, make this something you do with others, get others involved in this. So let's go back to this trust triangle. When we think about this, authenticity, being the real you, have the conversations feel like just that, conversations. Make sure there's a care element. We're asking about them, and we're going to model that in the conversation we're about to do. And then the logic, I know you can do it. Your reasoning and judgment are sound. By the way, write this down. The logic piece, the conversations that we have that are authentic and that are caring about them are the real delivery points for, the DTD2, the conversations are delivery point for authenticity and empathy. And it also gives you the opportunity to weave logic into these conversations, especially when the market's got change going on. But the logic piece is often best delivered through not just your conversations. Do you have a robust, email and direct mail campaign going that has market stats, what's going on in the market? Again, what we would call market stats and MOFRs, messages that match the market, and MOFRs. Again, MOFR standing for make offers for immediate response. And these are the kind of things that we help you work through, because you've got to get your message right, and it has to match the market.
Right.
And yet let's go to this one conversation, Tammy, that's a simple conversation that we can weave in. Now you see this guy, and he's got all these questions around mechanic, dentist, plumber, financial planner, architect, lawyer. And this is your client who just moved to your area. And they moved to the area and they realize, I've left every important relationship I had in Tupelo. And, and I've moved halfway across the country, and who is going to help me with all these important aspects of my life? And, Gary said at a family reunion some years ago, Tammy, he said, why does Angie's List even exist? He said, they shouldn't be going to Angie's List. What should they be doing, Tammy?
They should be calling us. I remember sitting in that seat like it was yesterday when he said that.
Yeah. And it was like one of these, right? And so in our business to business section of Never Ending Referrals, this is where we go through, how do you build a database, business to business? You can add 150, 200 people to your database in this area. Yes. And one of the best ways to do this is warm leads from the relationships we already have. And so we have a little script, and we're going to give it to you at the end when we're done today. We're going to give you this little script, so don't worry about having to write it all down. We're going to put it in the chat, and you'll be able to download it here in just a bit. But we call it the 5-star script. And Tammy, lead us, kind of prime us for this. What's going to happen here?
Well, this is my favorite conversation to have with your database, because number one, we're going to be reaching out to our database and asking them for business referrals, which is going to give us warm business contacts. It's not a cold call for us. It's a warm business lead. Business contacts are such quality contacts because just on average, they're going to be in front of more people than someone who doesn't own a business. We are supporting our local community, and we're also teaching our database to reach out to us for way more than things that just have to do with real estate. I think all of us on this call today are very used to the fact that we refer things to our clients that have to do with real estate or our homes. And yet, have you ever thought about being the person they reach out to when they need an orthopedic surgeon? I mean, so that's what this is all about, is you becoming their Angie's List and the person that they go to. And by the way, when you do this the right way, this is something that they share with their friends, and their friends aren't getting from their real estate agents. So hang on, because yes, and I love it. You guys are, those of you who already know the 5-star script, I love it.
Well, before we get into it, Tammi, I want to just preface this for a second. I want you to think about you and your position in your community. And if I'm a business owner, why would I want to know Tammi? If I live in Mooresville, North Carolina, why do I want to know Tammi and Bruce Juengst? Well, because they're the people who know the people who are moving to town who don't have an established relationship in maybe my business. And when you help them connect that dot, they want to be in relationship with you. And so it becomes, it's when we get into in our program, in our business to business section, when we get into the conversations to have with business owners, it's so easy because you position it in a way they want to know you. And then, of course, we want to set goals for how many referrals are we going to give in a year. But let's go into the conversation. So Tammy's going to be one of my clients, and I'm going to reach out to Tammi and ring, ring.
Hello.
Hey, Tammi, Steve Schlueter. How are you?
Hey, Steve. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, doing fantastic. Happy New Year.
Well, the same to you.
Yeah, just checking in with my peeps right now, ready to get a new year started as we're rolling into 2023 here. And how are things with you and Bruce? What kind of big plans do y'all have for the first part of 2023?
Oh, things are fantastic. We are down at the beach in our beach condo right now, which is by the way the truth, because that's why I'm so blurry.
Wow. And yeah, remind me where your beach condo is again.
We are in North Myrtle. Golly, I couldn't even think of where I was.
North Myrtle Beach. That's fantastic beach. Yeah, well, I know you guys are beach lovers. I think I saw on Facebook you just came back from a vacation. Y'all were, I saw a beach. Where were y'all at?
We were in Jamaica.
Jamaica. Oh, fantastic. You guys have the best travels. Hey, Tammi, let me tell you why I was calling today. And first, I want to see how you guys were doing. Number two, I need your help with a little business project we're working on. And I thought you guys could help me. And do you got just a second?
I do.
Oh, perfect. Well, this project we're building, it's what I call it's the local 5-star list. And it's what we're doing is we're reaching out to our best clients and friends like you, and we're saying, who has really impacted you with a 5-star experience in the last month or so that maybe we could add to this directory. Because see, Tammi, as you can imagine, as a real estate agent, I've got people moving to the area all the time that have come to us from other parts of the country, and they just don't have these relationships here. And they're going, who should I go to for blank, blank, and blank? And we said, the best people we know are the people that we get to serve. And I'm just curious, has anybody just blown you away in the last month or so with maybe a 5-star service experience that you could share with me? Might be an ad for us to our directory.
Yes. I'm just going to make up this name. So A+ Plumbing, I'm sure you experienced the same. We had just unseasonably cold weather and we had a frozen pipe, and I'm sure a lot of people did. And yet they showed up and got everything, fixed, and it was a miracle.
Wow. What'd you love best about what they did?
they were here like within an
Yes.
hour. That was the most important part. They were here within an hour, and I mean, it was like there wasn't a mess. It was fantastic.
Yeah. And so it was A plus plumbing, I believe is what you said. And then did you happen to have a contact name or somebody there that I might be able to reach out to?
I do. Bob Smith.
Bob Smith. Okay, perfect. Well, Tammy, I appreciate that. And then I'll reach out to Bob. And when I do, by the way, would it be okay if I mentioned your name that, you had sent me their way? Would that be okay?
Oh, that'd be great. Yes.
Oh, perfect. Hey, and Tammy, maybe there's another area you can help me with. And, tax time is just around the corner. And I know recently, when I guess some of these people had filed a lot of extensions, and last September, October, I was getting, asked for a great CPA. And honestly, that's a space where I don't have a really great introduction. And I'm curious, do you have a 5-star introduction in that space you might be able to provide us with?
Well, Steve, I probably have a 4-star.
Well, and that might be okay. And let's just say she doesn't, and so she doesn't. And I'll say, well, Tammy, let me ask you this. I know with our network being what it is, that I'm going to find, 1 or 2 really great CPAs. And would you like me to introduce you to that person when they come across my desk?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that, because that way you can be prepared for tax time as it comes up this next year. Thanks for again helping me with A plus. Hey, by the way, before I let you go, I will be letting you know that I'll be published how to access this when we publish it. And feel free to call us. If you have any needs like this, reach out to us. Tammy, last thing I want to mention is, of course, interest rates being up, a lot of talk about the economy. There's a lot of confusion out there about the real estate market. And here's what I just want you to know this, because a lot of people don't know this right now. There are actually some really unique opportunities in our market. And anybody that maybe has real estate plans in the next 24 months ought to at least sit down and see what the realities of the market are, or strategically, it might be a good time for them to at least explore. So if you hear anybody, please reach out to me. Let me know. I'd love to reach out and see if we might be able to serve them. You guys personally, any plans next 24 months real estate wise?
No, not at the moment. Nothing comes to mind. However, Steve, you are our guy. So if we do,
I love that.
we'll call you, and I will send you anybody who is looking to do anything.
I so appreciate y'all's support. And like I said, I think a lot of people are sitting on the sidelines because they're confused, and we want to just get rid of some of the confusion for folks out there and help them along their way. Hey, before I let you go, tell me about what's the big travel destination for 2023? Got a big one on the radar?
Oh gosh, right now it's Napa and going back to Cabo.
Napa and Cabo. That just going west. Tammy's going west. I tell you. Well, that's fantastic. And have you been to either? I know you've been to Cabo before. Is Napa someplace new?
Nope.
No. You got your favorites. I love that. Well, that says something. If you keep going back, it's got to be good. So, well, when Shelly and I schedule a trip out there, I know who to call for some advice. So thank you. Hey, take care. Have a great one, Tammy. I tell Bruce I said hello.
I will do it. Thank you so much. Good to talk to you.
All right. So dissect that for us, Tammy.
Oh my gosh. So, those of you who have either been through Never Ending Referrals and, we've shared this. This is my favorite conversation to have with the database. Of those 4 phone calls that we make, once a quarter, I really believe that 2 of the 4 can be around this because of what it's doing. So if I dissect this, number 1, it was that you're working on a project, and it's for me, it's for future people. I know what you do for a living, and yet here you are putting together something that is really designed to be a benefit to me. Secondly, when you asked me if I had had a great just experience with someone in the last 60, 90 days, and I gave you the plumber, you asked if you could use my name when you reached out to them. Number 1, that is now a warm business contact. It's a warm conversation. Hey, we have a client in common, and in Tammy, right?
Mhm.
And she suggested I reach out to you, and this is a free service that you're putting together, right? So that's going to be a great conversation. The other thing about asking to use my name is what just happened to the relationship that I have with that vendor. Right now, that vendor is like, oh my gosh, like Tammy's pretty cool because she just put me in touch with a real estate agent who wants to promote my business for free, right? I'm not there, she's not asking for anything from me. And so I just help the relationship equity between those two.
Yeah.
Then you asked me, and by the way, guys, you can fill in what that CPA is. This time of year, it's a great time to ask about the CPA. The key to that second ask is asking for something that not very many people have a 5-star experience with. And so, Steve, I mean, you love that part of the script, and share with them why that's so important.
Well, think about this for a second, Tammy. And by the way, once I get a 5-star CPA, I'm not going to stop asking for one, because I'm also looking for people who have a 5-star CPA need. And maybe I wind up with 2 5-star CPAs and 12 people that have a need for one. And now when I reach out to the CPAs, what do I have in hand?
Potential clients.
Potential clients. I'm going to be that person's new bestest friend, even if their son or daughter is in real estate. It's they're going to go, wow,
Right.
there's going to be a connection that gets created, and the law of reciprocity is going to show up really fast. And the relationship equity that I have there is so strong going into that. And so, and of course, we have a whole business to business section where we get into what's the conversation with the business and how do we set this up so they connect the dots and view the relationship as powerful. And I love the question Luke asked. He said, you're asking about any plans in the next 24 months versus the next 12 months. Mm-hmm. And good catch, Luke, because what I'm doing is anybody that has any plans going out a couple of years, I'm going to say we need to get to the kitchen table and have a conversation now. And because I believe in my markets anyway, I don't know your markets, there's an 18-month window of opportunity where they're going to have choices. 2 years might be too late, and they're back into competing heavily and not going to have choice. Now, that might be okay with them, and yet I want to be a good guide for them and help them understand the dynamics of our market, that waiting may cost them opportunity. And so that's why, if it's next 24 months, let's get to the kitchen table in the next few weeks and have a strategy session. And that's why, Luke. So Tammy, let's do this. There are a couple of things I want to bow tie, and we're going to put the 5-star script in the chat for you here in just a second. Before we do, there it is. It's in there now. And let me go through a couple of things for you real quick. Tammy and I want to invite you to join us in Never Ending Referrals. And it's probably the best investment, when you think about cost benefit, because it's not expensive. And here's our thought to you is, don't live one more day cold calling and praying for buyers and sellers. Unlock a business that you're excited about, and one where your buyers and sellers call you. Now, that's you build that through your DTD2, through that trust triangle. And our Never Ending Referrals program, we kick off again here January 2. We have our Market of the Moment conversations. We don't call them that anymore. Market of the Moment conversation session that we're kicking off on January 2. January 9th, we start back into the 8 lessons of Never Ending Referrals. And we have an expert the first 30 minutes of each section. And then we go into a 1-hour lesson, and it's setting the foundation. We deal with behavioral styles in session 2. Session 3, we get into business to business and social media. Session 4, it's all about, making events work for you. Small ones, big ones, little ones, round ones, and then session 5 is, how do you cement the relationship? Session 6, we get into, we talked about your messaging and MOFers and really being that local trusted advisor or the economist of choice. We take you in how to get that messaging built. We do talk the other database, geofarming, because it is a database in session 7. And then we get into, video and pulling this all together with a plan in session 8. So Megan, if you'll put the registration link in there, or you can just go to neverendingreferrals.com to join us in Never Ending Referrals. It's just $39 a month, and there's a 5-month minimum requirement that you stay with us. We have people, Tammy, that have been with us for
Years.
2+ years
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're always adapting to the market of the moment. You will get instant access to our online portal where you can take the 8 lessons self-paced if you like to work that way. Our live sessions are every Monday, the first 3 Mondays of each month, and they are at noon Central Time. We go from noon to 1:30. And so that's the story. Again, it's neverendingreferrals.com. Happy to answer your questions. Tammy, what would you bow tie our conversation with today? So we covered a lot. We really looked at how to deliver on the trust triangle. What would you button this up with?
The message is this: if the conversation is the relationship, when we have value added conversations, which obviously we just shared one of those with you all today, then, driving past a home that you sold to somebody and seeing someone else's sign in the front yard is never going to happen to you.
Mhm.
It's where, like I said, at the beginning, lack of conversation can hurt relationships. Conversations don't. And so, when we're afraid to have a conversation with someone else is having a conversation, and it opens the door. It's part of the reason that when the National Association of Realtors polls home buyers and home sellers, it's close to 90% of them, 90, that say they would use their agent again, which means as an industry, we're doing a great job. And yet it's only 12 to 18% that actually do. And when we get into the relationships with the people in our database, guys, you're part of the unnorm, right? And that's why the conversations have to happen.
Yeah, Barb Schwartz.
Hey, Barb.
Hey, Barb.
Oh, God.
Can you repeat the lack of conversation phrase?
So conversations don't hurt relationships.
Hmm.
Lack of conversations do.
Yeah. Yeah. Susan Scott says it this way, and I want you to sit on this one here, guys. Every relationship succeeds or fails one conversation or one missing conversation at a time.
Yep.
And she goes on to say that not any conversation is guaranteed to change the trajectory of relationship, but any one conversation can. And so really, we have got to move to creating a relationship-based business. This industry is such where you've got all these third parties out there that are aggregating, data, and and you pay 35% for a lead today or for a transaction. And if you keep giving that up and you don't go build your own database, there will be a day, 18 months, 36 months, I don't know how many it'll be, you'll be paying 45% for that. And then you'll be paying 52% for that. And this is where you get to control your destiny. This is the most important work you can do. And we'd love to be your partners. Again, go to neverendingreferrals.com. Megan, if you'll drop the registration link in there again. And by the way, it's 30-day money back guarantee. You don't like Tammy, you don't like the way Steve looks. Just I can't take looking at that guy anymore. Just let us know. We'll refund you. We're here to make this simple to be your partner on this journey.
Go become database warriors, right?
That's it.
Go build a business that when you wake up in the morning, you love what you do. You don't dread it. And that's what we're here to help you do. So
Tammy, thank you for being my partner in this journey. So long, guys. We appreciate you being with us today, and Happy New Year.